Hello everyone and welcome to the Constructive Criticism Network. This network is here to help you improve at Magic the Gathering at every level. From Pauper Leagues to Top 1000 Mythic, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, head on over to our sponsor at PureMTGO.com, where you can hear each and every show, each and every week, and check out their sponsor, MTGO Traders, and tell them that the CCMTG Network sent you. Now sit back, enjoy the show. From YouTube, podcasts, and more, here's this week's episode from ConstructiveCriticism.com.
Yeehaw! Howdy, y'all! Welcome to Pioneer Country. This is MTG Trailblazers.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of MTG Trailblazers. My name is Kyle. I'm here with my partner Tommy.
How you doing?
And we've got quite a busy day going. Today started the announcement of all of the new Zendikars and a lot of the cards and the mechanics of that, as well as the announcement of where the future of Magic is going, set-wise. So Tommy, you've taken a look at these Zendikar cards. Off the top, what do you think about them just so far before we get deeper into them?
Well, right off the bat, I adore the set for the fact that it is very nostalgic. I began really playing in Zendikar or Battle for Zendikar, and this touches all those notes. I'm sure it's going to throw back a lot of old players who played the OG Zendikar with a lot of returning mechanics we all saw, Kicker and Landfall being prime among them. However, this definitely has a lot of powerful cards that I think we'll not only see play in Standard, but definitely Historic and definitely Pioneer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a number of cards in Pioneer and Historic, I think, that are gonna make some impacts. So going off the bat, our new mechanics for Zendikar are Party, which requires you to have one of each of a Cleric, a Rogue, a Warrior, and a Wizard archetype for your creatures. Now this is similar to how Ally was for the other two, for the other Zendikar sets, but this is focusing more on an adventuring party and combining resources from all different colors. It seems like it's a multicolored how should I say the mechanic and the other mechanic that we're going to be going back to is Landfall and Kicker. These Landfall and Kicker have always been popular. I think they've seen play in every Zendikar. I don't think Kicker saw play in Battle for Zendikar block, but I know it saw play. Both of them saw play in the original Zendikar.
For sure. Oh, I hear stories of people being turn 1 Steplings, turn 2 Geopod, turn 3 Timbering Peaks. Ooh, that was 8 damage on turn 3. Very fast for draft.
Yeah, Zendikar, the original Zendikar set is known to be the fastest out there. So I don't know. Should be interesting. Then the final newish mechanic, kind of new because it's not really ever been done this way before. They're transform, so they're transformed. Transform is back. Flip cards are back. Two double-sided cards, if you will. But this time they link sorceries and instants with lands, so you can play the card for either its instant or sorcery mode, or you can play it flipped over as a land. And to kind of explain this, I'll read off one of the cards that was previewed that I actually think is a fairly good card. I'm not sure where it slots in, but I think it could actually, sit well in some archetypes. Is Valakut Awakening, which is 2 and a red for an instant. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many +1. So it essentially cycles your hand to the bottom and draws that many cards while also replacing itself, so you're not down in any cards. But if you play it on its backside, it enters tapped, and it is taps for a red like a mountain. It's just an interesting way to do it. What do you think of these types of cards?
Well, taking a look at what they've essentially called modal double-faced cards, which is the most cumbersome way, but delightfully so to pronounce
I
it.
can't wait till...
Here are my 2 cents for constructed level play. They're fantastic in terms of they give your deck more variety and more choices and decisions, which always makes games better if you have to have different lines of play and also different ways your opponents have to play around it. For example, would you keep a 2-land hand? Probably not unless you're the aggro deck. But would you keep a 2-land hand with one of these modal spells, perhaps? Taking example of our preview cards, Plucker Predation, which is basically 3-mana Thoughtseize, except it only hits stuff with 3 or greater.
It's like the opposite of Inquisition of Kozilek.
Yep, and the cool thing is you can play it as a tapped source for black mana. So you could keep that in an Esper control, or and you could play that either as that spell, or if you needed it as the tap land This gives you more flexibility. But what I also like is this encourages more interactive player cards. For example, Thoughtseize is a great way to have play against your opponent playing these kind of cards, where you can be oh, they're on 2 lands in this card, I can just essentially strip mine their hand of 1 land and definitely have perfect information of how they'll have to play. So definitely adds a layer of complexity. Speaking of double modal spells, we actually had a cycle is the best term for it, but a group of 6 dual lands for this set. 3 ally, 3 enemy. Where I'll read one of them, for example, Clearwater Pathway. It plays for blue mana, or you can play it for the other side, Murkwater Pathway, which taps for black. The game, it's basically a pseudo upgrade Evolve It or Fable Passage, which has all of its abilities where you just get the color you need immediately that you can use. For me, this is really cool because it gives aggressive decks the kind of speed and selection that they needed. Since right now in Pioneer, we do not have the ally fast lands or the ally paint lands, which has definitely been tough on more aggressive decks. Your thoughts?
I actually think this is really good for Pioneer, at least, because it solves the problem that a lot of allied, especially colored base decks face. Because before, the only thing you really had was the show lands, which Fortified Village and
Port Town,
stuff like that. Yeah, where you had to show, and they would come in.
Port Town,
stuff like that. Yeah, where you had to show, and they would come in, late. Always come in tapped, and you'd always have to give information away. But these, you could play these instead, and they're. Yes, it's not a duel, but you don't always need it to be a duel. You can have it be one color or the other, while still counting as both. It's great, especially also for splashing decks that are just splashing a color, where you don't always need that color in mass, so you could play it as the main colors of your deck. I think that's fantastic for those kind of decks, and I think it's fantastic for the format. I heard a couple people say it's probably top 5 dual type sets ever made. I don't know how true that is, but I think they're a very well balanced system, a well balanced design for how a duel could be. Well, just going off, being able to just be either color. We saw something like this in Jumpstart where they were duels that you could choose the other color. They were set one color and you could choose the other. But this is obviously it's a single card, but you can choose. And giving players choices is like, the more choices creates more options, which always creates better gameplay, as they like to say at Blizzard's. Choices create gameplay. Well,
For sure.
It's
I believe they've already named it for us, actually, the Pathway Cycle, since everyone... Yep.
They're all called Pathway. Yeah, you're right. So the Pathway lands. Gotcha.
I'm into it. These are definitely lands that I'm expecting to see play. The 2 decks that I think got the most out of these are Boros Feather and Gruul Aggro, since now you can have a consistent turn 1 mana base. It's fantastic.
I think this makes Gruul Aggro in Historic a lot better, because you don't have to rely on Sheltered Thicket that I've seen, and you don't have to rely on Fabled Passage for more duels, and it opens up options in that deck.
For sure, but I think we've covered enough about the lands. Any spicy new cards here that you think are going to shake up the Pioneer format?
Yeah, I think, well, a little bit in Pioneer, because we already have a card like this, but a lot in Historic.
Shake up the Pioneer format?
Yeah, I think, well, a little bit in Pioneer, because we already have a card like this, but a lot in Historic. I think Blood Chief's Thirst is amazing, especially in Historic, because Blood Chief's Thirst is 1 black with Kicker 2 and a black, and it's a sorcery that destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 2 or less, and if this spell was kicked, destroy target creature or planeswalker. You might know this card like Fatal Push. This card is just great because it's great early. It answers a planeswalker. While not relevant in Pioneer or Historic, in Modern it takes care of Wrenn and 6 for 1 mana. And poor Tybalt never stood a chance. He gets taken care of too. Yeah, for 4 mana, it's a Vraska's Contempt without the life gain, but it's a Vraska's Contempt for...
Or Hero's Downfall, right? That was the one. That was a 3 mana from Original Theros, which was destroy target creature or planeswalker.
Yeah, but this costs 1 more mana than Hero's Downfall, whereas Vraska's Contempt was a 4. But anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless, yes, I think that this card will see lots of play in both of those formats. Another card that I really like, that I think will see significant play in both Pioneer and Historic, is Lotus Cobra. You like ramp? You like fast mana? This card is the fastest mana you won't get. While it's not going to be terribly broken because you don't have fetch lands, you still have Prismatic Vista. Or not Prismatic Vista, that's the other one. That's the good one.
Fabled Passage?
Yeah, Fabled Passage. And if you want, you can run Evolving Wilds, I guess, if you want to do it that way too. But yes, you do have Fabled Passage. So
I guess for me, one uncommon that's got my eye is definitely Rune Crab. It is 1 blue for a crab with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. 0 power, 3 toughness. So for all those old school players, you'll probably think this is incredibly similar to Hedron Crab, which was basically the same, except it could mill anyone and only had 2 toughness. I feel like this could be the opening for a sweet blue-black control deck, focusing on mill benefits. But it's definitely a cute card and one that I'm looking forward to seeing play.
Yeah, I think that card could set up something with you have like Merfolk Secret Keeper. You have what is that, the one, God, they had that card from Magic Origins that all Hammerit's Tutelage or whatever.
Oh yeah, Sphinx's Tutelage.
Sphinx's Tutelage,
One,
yeah.
2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you draw a card with it, mill the top 2 cards of an opponent's card deck, and if they share the color, repeat the process.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's gonna be. I think that could be a deck, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, and then there's the Teferi one that was just in Core 21. When you draw, they mill 2 or whatever. That's It's. I think there could be a start to a mill deck out there.
For sure. And I think the last 2 cards that deserve attention are the 2 like standout planeswalkers that we probably will see play, Jace Mirror Mage and Nissa the Shadow Bows. Auras?
Yeah. Bows. Yeah. So Jace Mirror Mage was previewed last week, but it's a 1 blue for Legendary Planeswalker Jace. It's got kicker 2, and for every time for when you kick it, you I keep on I see. The thing is, I thought this had multi-kicker on it. I was like, you could just keep making a bunch of them, but no, it's just got kicker. It's got 1 kicker, so you can make a copy of it if you kick it, and it's not legendary, and it's only got 1 loyalty, but it's got it's +1 is Scry 2, which is not great, but it's not terrible. It's okay for a 3 mana planeswalker. It's got a 0 where you draw a card and reveal it, and then remove a number of loyalty counters equal to the card's converted mana cost from Jace. So what I like to do with this is you play 2 of them. You scry with the 1 mana one. You put something cheap on top, and then you draw it with the Jace Mirror Mage, and you just keep repeating like that. I like this card. I don't think it's broken for a 3 mana planeswalker. I think it'll see some play. I don't know where. Probably in like a blue-white control deck. But yeah, I think that'll see play. How do you feel about Jace?
This is definitely a card where I could see it as like a one of in a defense deck.
Well, fires will stick around. Yeah.
Yeah, just because the way I see it is play fires, and next turn play this card as well the free spells while paying the kicker. Then you can set up future fires plays, or if you need something immediately, just either sack the Jace or whatever to just get a planeswalker.
Is that how that works? Can you pay the kicker even if you pay no mana for it?
Oh yeah, so the way that kicker works, it's an additional cost. So basically you cast the Jace for free off fires, and you can then have the option to pay the addition. Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's so good. That's so good.
I know.
I didn't even think of that. Oh my god. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I could definitely seeing play in the shell. We had Teferi 3-drop Teferi in that shell. I could see Jace being played in that shell. I could see Jace being played in that shell too.
Yeah, I think currently some lists are playing Jace Architect of Thought, but in my opinion, like just running this kind of a Jace where you just put 2 more Planeswalker bodies that your opponent has to go, alright, do I kill like both these Jaces, otherwise you're going to get like even better draws coming up, or it just puts your opponents through like a world of hurt for setting up, and it's just an innocuous 3 mana walker that like people are going to ignore.
Oh yeah. And then going over to Nissa of the Shadowed Bows.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's 2 black mill green for Legendary Planeswalker Nissa. It has landfall, that when a land enters battlefield under your control, you put a loyalty counter on it. That means this thing's going to get big fast. But it's got +1. You untap a land. You have it become a 3/3 elemental with haste and menace until end of turn. And it's still a land. So standard Nissa fare, making lands into creatures, yada yada yada. We know, we hate it. I'm kidding. It's a fine mechanic, but you know it's done every time there's a Nissa. And then -5. It starts at 4 loyalty, by the way. -5. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So it can -5 right away if you play this on turn 5 or have a way to get a land in after you play it on turn 4. And it instantly brings something back that's big for 5 CMC. Essentially, it's probably going to be 5 CMC. At least to bring back. So you can think of stuff in the format. You can bring back your if you built Sultai, you can bring back your Uro to get another land drop and draw another card. If you play Jund, you can bring back a Kroxa or any, bring back a Glory Bringer if you're going that big and you've milled it to the yard. It's just, or you can play Glory Bringer from your hand. It's, and if you're thinking about it, so if you play this on 4, you plus it once, you attack with the land or do whatever you want with the land, it's fine. Turn 5, you come around, you play a land, 5 on this to play another 5-drop or a 6-drop, and that's just amazing in my opinion. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's gives mid-range decks a tempo boost in the later game, which can kind of help.
Honestly, look at this card. The best home I can think of it right now for Pioneer, Sultai mid-range. Imagine playing this on turn 4 and fetching, so Nissa can live and maybe bring back like an Emrakul. That could be cool. Sure, you don't get like the cast trigger, but still, Emrakul, man.
If you have 13 lands in play, yeah, go for it.
I was just thinking, bring it from the grave. Or I was just thinking, bring it from the grave or the hand, which I do admit.
You have to have 13. You have to have 13 lands.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's my bad.
That would be so good, but I think if you have 13 lands in play, you're probably either winning or in a losing position.
Yeah, you're right. What I do like about this, though, is the phrasing for that ultimate helps you get around, like, graveyard hate. Since you can just be like, you could, like, be milling yourself and be like, oh, I still have this really cool card in my hand that I can play, so milling doesn't actually hurt you, it just creates another obstacle for your opponent to have to get around. So I'm into it.
Oh, yeah. And there's a bunch of other cards that we'll go into probably later when we come out with our set review when the whole thing has been released. We'll probably be talking about it over the next couple weeks too. But moving into the next set of sets, I guess you could say. So after Zendikar, we're going to my top, the most excited set. It's called Kaldheim, and it's a Viking Norse theme set. Now this theme has been wanted for a long time. I know I've followed it ever since I could remember people wanting a Viking set, and as someone who lives a Viking Norse pagan lifestyle, this excites me in the ways. I feel seen, as the kids would say. I feel seen.
Out of curiosity, think we'll be getting some new gods for the format?
Oh man, if they make a Thor card, I'm making a commander deck out of it. I promise I will do that.
I think I'm more of the trickster god myself, but definitely
you can be a Loki. Okay.
I'm also curious to see how they'll like add more creature types that we haven't seen typically, and how they'll explore that space. Giants, for example, could be something super cool, or like other creature types we might not see too much. Really want to see a Yeti personally, but we'll see.
A Yeti? We've had Yetis before, so I wouldn't mind seeing a Yeti. I don't know if it's been called a Yeti, but we
think can't remember if it's
I think it's Alara.
It was Fate Reforged. I remember because it was like there were like, oh wait, no, it was Khans of Tarkir and Dragons of Tarkir, because there were like 2 cards of the same thing but different images based on the different timelines. Good times. Oh. Anyway, next up is a set that I'm super excited for. Strixhaven, School of Mages. Get out your pens and pencils, kiddos. We're going back to school. Apparently with this set, we have 5 competing colleges. Strixhaven being one of them, being the most elite of schools of magic. Though each of the other 4 all have their different philosophies and methods of doing magic, so I'm very curious if we'll have a monocolored set similar to Throne of Eldraine with the 5 courts, or are we going to have tricolored schools of magic? Either one would be super cool, and I'm so excited to see this.
Yeah, I think this is where Kasmina comes from, so you can recruit your class and learn some magic, and I think this also sets up so with the Kaldheims, so linking into Zendikar, you have the party system. Going into Kaldheim, you'll get rogues and warriors.
Yeah.
And then going into Strixhaven, you'll get clerics and wizards. And
wow, this almost sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. Wonder what they're doing.
Well, now that you mention that, so the set after that is not a core. Well, now that you mention that, so the set after that is not a core set. From what I can tell, it's a D&D themed set called Dungeons and Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Now, I don't know a lot of how they're going to do this set. Me and some friends that are into D&D have been speculating on stuff like, are they going to add people like Mordenkainen or Tasha or stuff like that into D&D, or are they going to set the world in Baldur's Gate or stuff like that? But it'll definitely be interesting on where we go with that type of set.
For sure. And after that,
yeah, we're going back to Innistrad.
Yes.
With Innistrad Werewolves and Innistrad Vampires, 2 sets. I don't know how they're going to do these 2 sets. So one's themed after werewolves and one's themed after vampires. I don't know if they're supplementary sets. I don't know if they are full sets. We don't know much about them, just the names of them. But everybody likes them some Innistrad. How do you feel about Innistrad?
So, from what was said during the preview show of Zendikar Rising, these are both two like complete sets, like full sets. You said implement this because I'm assuming they're going to be launched at the same time. So that just means like how is that going to work into like not standard, but I guess like limited play. But that's really a problem for like way down the line. I'm more curious to see how they'll do this, just because it feels like with Zendikar they're giving a nostalgic flashback for a lot of players. I wonder if they're trying to aim for that, where we get to see Innistrad post Eldrazi, please, and just see the remnants or ramifications of those, but really go back to what made Innistrad, the first Innistrad, super sweet. This time with, I guess, a power vacuum between the vampires and the werewolves, since spirits are kind of like doing their own thing and zombies are also doing their own thing. So definitely interested to see how we're going to go back to this much beloved plane, but I'm sure we'll see some iconic characters like Olivia Voldaren, Thalia, and who was that vampire legend? Not Arlingcourt, but the 4-mana 4/4. I'll remember it another time, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one.
Oh yeah, it's everybody thinks we're gonna get Lily of the Veil again, but I doubt it. But who knows? So yeah, that's where Magic is heading right now. Oh, ESPN just came on.
Yep.
But so after that, I want to talk about where we presently are. So we are currently in a era where Star City Games and the online challenges are focusing on Pioneer and Historic, and I wanted to talk about these past week's events. So in the Pioneer Challenge, it was one of them was won by I believe Red Black Pyromancer. I think this deck is, personally I haven't had luck with this deck, but people are having luck with the deck. It focuses on stuff like Young Pyromancer and Dreadhorde Arcanist and Croxa to use removal and card deny, hand disruption. That's the word I was looking for. To take over the game in that way. And then the other Pioneer Challenge was won by 4-color Niv, which this particular one is taking some liberties with the list, but I don't hate it. They're running Deathrite Shaman a lot more now. The format as a whole has been very healthy, I find. You have everything from 5-color Niv to Red Black Pyromancer to Mono Green Devotion to Fires of Invention to Jund Citadel, Jund Sacrifice, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think the deck is actually very healthy.
Even though we have definitely these decks that are like a cut above the, well, not a cut, but like definitely much more played and a little bit stronger than the average other deck, we're still seeing like fringe decks on Magic Online like Spirits, Boros Feather, and Soul Artifact, and Mono Black Vampires all still managing to carve out 5-0 wins. So, as you said, the format's healthy enough that we can have like these off the hand decks just like still be able to like put up a fight and definitely put on good results. So yeah, I'm super happy with how this how the Pioneer format looks. And as we mentioned before, Zendikar definitely looks powerful, but not so much game-breaking that we should see a major shift, and hopefully, in fact, see a bit more diversity with maybe more land focus. decks. We'll see though. I'm very interested to see where we're heading with our newest additions coming up.
Yeah.
Where we're heading with our newest additions coming up.
Yeah. I definitely think the format as a whole is in a good place. There's not a I queue up for a lot of leagues now, and there's not one deck that I play against that I'm like, oh, how I felt with Inverter and Mono White and all the combo decks that got banned out. Every game I feel is fun to play, no matter what deck I'm facing against. Moving into Historic, I also think that this format is insanely healthy too. How do you feel, Tommy? Have you seen anything?
Yeah, as you mentioned, like, Historic seems to have settled down into, like, post the Teferi and every other ban, like, things are pretty balanced. Like, we have stuff like 4-color Sultai mid-range, don't get me how that's even works, but it does. Ban control, burn, like, we've got a healthy mix of both aggressive, control, mid-range. It's just, like, a really good time right here. Like, both Pioneer and Historic both seem like, if not like perfectly diverse, the games feel fun. The games feel like every chance you have a way to like win, there are things you can realistically do and not like backbreaking in terms of like adjusting to shifts in the meta. It just feels like a constant like constant flow of games that just like are fun, exciting, you can adapt, you can learn, and the cycle continues. So yeah, I'm super happy with how the format looks and definitely looking forward to when we all get a chance to play Paper Magic again. But for now, online has been the best we can do, and even that's been a blast.
Oh yeah, I've been playing around with some different decks, for Historic. Played some Mono Black, God Pharaoh's Gift, played some they have a Jund Sacrifice Citadel deck there too. They have Bant Control, I feel. You have Goblins, both of those I feel are getting top tier. Gruul Aggro. I think you could pretty much play anything in that format going forward. Yeah. So looking forward to the weekend. I am going to try to play in some events. Tonight I'm going to try to play in a Star City Historic event. I'm going to take Mono Green Aggro into that event and see what we can do there. This weekend I might play in a Pioneer Challenge. I don't know if I'll play Mono Green Devotion or Jund Sacrifice. I like both of those decks a lot right now. And both of those decks are even evolving. 1 week Jund Sac was playing Blister Pod, now it's not. Now Mono Green Devotion is playing Gargaroths in the main, and it's just both formats seem very fluid, and it's, in my opinion, really great. Are you going to be doing any spell slinging or any brewing coming up?
Sadly, at my current space, I've got both grad school, working as a teacher, and working at a restaurant. So my opportunities to play Magic are few and far between at the moment. But right now, I've been looking for the Pioneer format, start like getting together a good enough collection. So when things do open up, I'll definitely have plenty of options to jam a few games.
Nice. Yeah, life is pretty rough right now, so we'll see what we can do. I think that's gonna do about it for this week. You can find me on most places at Disposable Hero. That's Disposable with a Y. every nook and cranny of the internet. It's usually where you'll find me. What about you, Tommy?
If you want to find me, I'll be on Jammersoul at Twitter. Typically, I just like post around, respond to like some really cool stuff I see on Magic Gathering lists. I am trying to work on a primer for Is in Soul that I'll hopefully have up by like Saturday. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll post it on Twitter. But yeah, just enjoying this like fun, diverse format, and always trying to share some love with some of the more underdog kind of decks.
Nice. And that'll do it for this week, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Later.